I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of Americans being afraid of this big bad word, socialism, like it's fucking talking about Voldemort. We think about all of the systems in America that we have sort of socialized, meaning that the government takes an interest to the extent that it protects those interests for the people formally and sometimes informally. You will see that there's nothing to be afraid of. That there is an idea of public good, and the more that we're open and transparent about it, the more that we can come to some sort of agreement about what those goods are. I think that we would agree that, for example, a water mill, sorry, I say water mill, uh, a leather tannery dumping chemicals into um, a water reservoir or river that then goes into the drinking water or the land of the neighboring inhabited places. That's a public good. That's something that we want to protect. I think about movies like Aaron Brockovich or the movie Class Act. I think it's called Class Act or Class Action with John Travolta, where, basically the mishaps of private industry and private interests destroy communities. And I think that with global warming, we can see that that's really been the case all over the world. And so if you take a step back and see that actually combustion, as we know it, has been a socialized ideology. Governments everywhere have jumped on this board of combustion, and the combustion engine based on petroleum is the way forward. And we've made it in every way possible for that to be the dominant mode of energy production. That, petroleum and coal. And that's what has gotten us into such deep trouble. And we talk about clean air, clean water. Then you talking about schools. Well, you know what? The fact that that kid over there comes to school hungry and is distracted, doesn't get enough sleep, makes it more difficult for my kid to get an education in that classroom. So I'm actually willing to pay a little bit more in my taxes to make sure that kids can go to school and get breakfast and lunch. Because when my kid is in that classroom and that kid is not hungry and able to pay attention, and that kid is nutritioned enough, and I'm talking about not just the kids who get a super abundance of calories through fast food, but the kids who actually have a nutritious diet and can even learn about what it means to have a nutritious and balanced diet, that makes a better society for me. It means that those kids will be less likely to go into crime. It means that those kids will be less likely to get into a system of welfare that creates a kind of dependency. When we talk about welfare in America, it's like, oh, I pay taxes so that somebody else can sit at home on their ass. That old tired Protestant work ethic never worked for anybody. And I'm so tired of hearing. I'm so tired of hearing it. I cannot tell you. We've socialized white privilege, for example. In this nation, yes, white skin privilege and having a penis between your legs has been a government policy of saying things can be easier for you. In this society, you can think that what you do is right, the course that you're on is good, and that anybody not like you has to work a little bit harder. But we've never acknowledged that. And that is a form of socialism, and that shit is scary. But it's a transparent sort of socialization that really scares people nowadays in America. And, the fact that Lehman Brothers, the Bear Stearns, and all of these different financial institutions that traded in commodities, and you look at Lehman Brothers, it began with cotton. From the very place that my family picked cotton and didn't have the opportunity to sell it on the free market because their labor was free. But the white people who did have the opportunity to trade in those commodities with the Lehman Brothers, who were immigrants themselves, and lo and behold, 150 years later, they're one of the largest financial institutions on the planet, and they collapse. Because that socialist system, that system which said that this is the course that we want to be on, and we're going to make tax breaks for them, like what Bush recently did with those tax breaks for the wealthy, so you could trickle down with, like crumbs trickling down to the poor people. You don't need to own land, poor people in rural Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi. Sell your land to a big company that the government gives socialist like tax breaks to, and you can come work for them. And we're going to make it possible. You can't have no unions. What do they call it down here in the South? Right to work. That you can't have no unions because when you have unions and your ass wants to protect labor, well, that's anti-free market. Well, listen here, America. People being on their own land and in their own homes creates stronger families, and stronger families creates a situation of marriages which uh don't collapse at a faster rate than people create marriages, which creates parental households and family situations where people can grow up happy, cared for, in communities where they feel loved. And kids who grow up in communities where they feel loved with not just two parents around, but parents who aren't stressed out about 2 and 3 jobs, aren't stressed out about where they're going to get health care for themselves, their kids, and their parents. You know, people who are sandwiched between two generations. That's a public good to create a situation where this, the what do you call it, the baby boomers can actually live more freely. If they can invest in businesses or themselves create businesses that create goods for the community. For example, my uncle wants to do landscaping and home renovation. Actually, that's a great good for the people in a lot of communities who, what if you could train someone like my uncle to install solar panels? And if you created tax breaks for companies to come in instead of just Hyundai and Honda and Mercedes to build gas guzzling cars, but to create tax breaks for companies who create solar panels. And so you create jobs for people to produce those, create jobs for people to install those, make it possible for people to invest in what would be a 15-year-long investment um, in installing solar energy and other forms of renewable energy in their homes. They would run Alabama Power out of business. But what they would create is cleaner air, cleaner water, more jobs, renewable jobs for people, and not just combustion-based, non-union, labor-exploiting jobs, which is what America has been based on since America was. I want to see those kinds of jobs. And I think that it is the government, meaning us pooling our resources, collective work and responsibility, different from I got mine, so you better get yours, and everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. That has never been the case in America. Pooling resources has always been the case, even if those resources were just motherfucking white skin. We have always pooled resources. So why not do that responsibly? Why not have a conversation about what it means to for the government to take stakes in a bank, and for that bank to be able to provide not just school loans for people, because having a freaking school loan is not a way of equalizing the educational opportunities, but saying that if you are a land grant school like Cornell University or like so many other universities, private universities, all of the Ivy League schools that fit into a tax bracket where they're just not taxed, but they're extremely wealthy. Harvard has an endowment bigger. Harvard has an endowment bigger than mine. That's pretty huge. That's well endowed. Why should they offer free education to people? Oh, they are. They are now for the poorest people. If you can get in, if you can survive the broke down inner city schools, and you can pass your SATs and ACTs and get high GPAs and do well in extracurricular activities, blah blah blah. And if you can get into Harvard, they'll pay for it. Why shouldn't more and more schools be like that? Why shouldn't they run high schools then? And why shouldn't the government regulate what that is? Why? Because people are scared of so-called socialism. People are scared of Kujichagulia, working together. That's an African concept, and I'm glad we got an African brother to bring it back.